Hey, Speedwinghere here. So today I wanted to gush a little bit about Chapter 17 of Engage. It's probably my favourite map in the game and one of my favourite maps in the entire series. When people talk about the better maps in the series, they usually talk about Chapter 10 of Conquest. I think Chapter 10 of Conquest is magnificent. In Chapter 10 of Conquest, the game gives you a lot of tools to work with and says, look, here you go. Use them correctly and you will win. Use them incorrectly and you will lose. Chapter 17 of Engage is very, very similar. Despite coming later in the game, so you've had more time to increase your options and a lot more tools to work with, what Chapter 17 does is it takes the toys and the fun rings that you get in the first third of the game and uses them against you. Often way better than you would be using them. There are 6 bosses in Chapter 17, and each one of them has an emblem ring that you had in the first third. And in return, you have 6 new emblem rings that you've only really been playing with for a couple of chapters at this point. What Chapter 17 does with these rings is it flips the scales on you. You have learned how to use them, but are you able to defend against them? Chapter 17 is a large map. It's a very large map, 6 bosses, and a multitude of ways to approach it. First up is Gris. Gris comes flying in with the Celica Warp and will have the opportunity to one-shot a couple of your weaker resistance units. So Gris is effectively a test of, do you have someone that can tank the hit from him, and then do you have enough damage to nuke him before he does anything? Because if Gris gets the option just to attack you normally, it's going to hurt severely. He's probably the easiest of the 6. But in fairness, he's the first that you will encounter as he rushes you right off the bat. His group of units that come with him aren't too bad. They're halberdiers. You should be able to clear them out. However, they come down in terrain. So if you are not careful, you will not be able to reach the mages in the back, and they can hurt. Now, once you've dealt with Gris, your options open up. You can go left, you can go up, you could go right down to Marnie. The world is your oyster. And the next boss I would suggest would be Marnie. Oh, Marnie is scary. Marnie is so scary. With her stats and her skill that increases her defense even higher, you will not be touching her with physical units. On top of that, she has Roy with Holdout Plus. This means that if she takes more damage that would put her under 20% of health, she will live on 1. So Marnie is a test that, do you have enough magic damage? Do you have enough magic damage to blast her down? Because you are not going to damage her with physical attack. The squad she comes with are equally scary. These are more armor knights that will probably only go down to magic attacks. She will also use Blazing Lion to set a bunch of fire, slowing your movement. You need to be on your toes with this one. She will catch you off guard. Next is boss number 3, Speedwinghere. Speedwinghere is a bit of a tricky one because he will tend to run at you while you're fighting Marnie. It depends how far across you went to fight her. Speedwinghere's bulky and he can heal, so you've got to be really quick on just bringing him down. You just got to nuke him. He's a DPS check. A lot of these bosses are DPS checks in different ways. And then here comes the real issue with this chapter. This is a real test of, do you have enough strong units and the ability to use them correctly in the right order? You encounter a humongous wave of units flying down, led by Zephyr, who has Sigurd. She will override, and her override can one-shot very easily. Now, a common strategy to use against her here is to lure her into overriding towards you. You are taking advantage of where she ends up with the override, which is something that will have been happening to you in the early chapters. You would have seen a nice line and gone, ooh, time to override, I can't not override this, only to have your unit be trapped on the other side, and the enemy side of the map. And finally, Hyacinth and Veil come in as a pair, and they are no joke. Both of them will be able to one-shot the majority of your units with their engaged attacks. You cannot let them hit your units. Unless you have some super tanky unit with Ike who could maybe soak it up, you will not want to take both a quadruple hit and a Lodestar Rush. Chances are Lodestar Rush will just one-shot by itself, And if it doesn't, quadruple hit will get you. And if that doesn't, then the massive amount of enemies surrounding them will get you. This is all about positioning. This part of the map tests whether you are able to pull units in certain ways, freezing them with things like Corrin and freeze staffs in order to pick them off enough that you can then deal with the real threat. Vale is so scary. He has Marth, giving her a lot of avoid. A lot of avoid. So you need to have engravings that give you extra hit, debuff her avoid with Corrin, or just throw caution to the wind and hope you eventually hit. Hyacinth, on the other hand, rather than being an avoid tank, is a tank. This guy is bulky. He has 30 defense and 30 resistance. And because he has Leaf, he will swap weapons, meaning that if you use a lance against him, he will swap to a killer axe. So lances are pretty much off the table. This map really just has a bit of everything. It will push you to your limits of the game's systems. I think playing this map on Maddening without using any of the DLC is one of the harder challenges in the series. It's not necessarily the most difficult map in the game, not by a long shot. I'd say it's one of the more challenging maps, and it's incredibly fair in the difficulties that it presents to you. And to top it all off, it has one of the best soundtracks of any map in the game, in my opinion.